Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Tales of Herding Gods based on novel. So let's start. Young people know how to play. In front of the hall, Blind was basking in the sun and talking to Deaf. Look at their sparkling youthfulness. They are brimming with enthusiasm and vigor, being so diligent with jewel cultivating. Deaf, have you ever thought of finding a partner? Deaf ignored him and pointed at his ear holes, showing that he couldn't hear what he was talking about. Playing deaf. Blind sneered and propped himself on his cane to stand up. He hobbled over to Emperor Yenfen's side and said, "In-law, your daughter is currently dual cultivating with my Mua. Eh, why are you puking blood? You are still scolding me. How can an emperor be scolding people? Where's the law? You still dare to hit me? You think I'm scared of you?" Qin Mu and Ling Yuxiu tried over and over again. When they had played enough, they finally agreed that they weren't going to finish the cultivation method of 6 directions primordial spirit if they continued like that. The two of them then became honest and started to analyze the cultivation method of 6 directions primordial spirit. "I feel we can start from the resonation of souls and the primordial spirits," Ling Yuxiu said seriously. If the souls and primordial spirits of two people were to resonate together, they could lend each other strength to make their primordial spirits leave their body. Qin Mu nodded and pondered it for a moment. However, that's when the primordial spirit is already cultivated. What if it isn't? Before the resonation of primordial spirits, the main thing is to fuse the spirit embryo and the soul. Ling Yuxiu was excited. "In that case, we shall start from the resonation of souls. Resonation of souls, using it to guide the spirit embryo, then fusing the soul and the spirit embryo to form the primordial spirit." Qin Mu's eyes lit up and he said, "The technique will need 2 people to cultivate together. I will use my soul to guide your spirit embryo, and you will use your soul to guide my spirit embryo. At the instant when the souls mix, we will both leave our bodies. Our souls will then swap and the primordial spirits will naturally be formed." The two of them looked at each other with extreme excitement. The theory had been voiced by them. Qin Mu's soul would guide Ling Yuxiu's soul and vice versa. The next step would then be the most important one. Their souls and spirit embryos would fly out of their bodies, and by borrowing the resonation to call out to each other, the souls would fuse with the other spirit embryo. The resonation of primordial spirit would then assure that it wouldn't separate back into spirit embryo and soul. That way, primordial spirit would be cultivated in 6 directions realm. Ling Yu suddenly became worried. The trouble here will be how to make this theory into technique, to guide one another's soul and spirit embryo. Qin Mu muttered to himself irresolutely and walked 2 rounds. This kind of technique needs one to mobilize their primordial spirit, soul, and spirit embryo at the same time. The most crucial thing is that both of them can't be on guard against each other, but must be the closest of kin, so close that they can't have any selfishness. Only then can they hand their own spirit and soul to each other without any reservation. Ling Yuxiu nodded and felt a sweetness in her heart. When Qin Mu said it like that, didn't it mean that she was his closest kin and he trusted her without any reserve? Don't ask how others can cultivate. Let's create the technique first. Qin Mu roused his spirit and he made a few more soul guide incenses sticks. The two of them then used their souls to guide each other's spirit embryos, comprehending their own vital qi circulation method before recording it. After trying it out a few times, they were slightly tired and could only stop to rest. They had played too many times earlier, which resulted in their vitality being somewhat lacking. After 6 days, Qin Mu and Ling Yuxiu tidied up the general idea of the technique and finally decided on the general principles. For everything else, they would have to make detailed corrections on the basis of the general principles. Butcher had yet to return from chasing Shingan, which made Qin Mu, Granny sigh, and the rest slightly worried. Shingan was too strong after all. If he solved the problem of the supplement and his corporeal body returned back to normal, Butcher might not be his opponent. Shingan's medical expertise was remarkable, otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to swap his body parts however he liked, so solving the problem with the supplement shouldn't have been too difficult for him. Sai Yunxiang, Yang Jingjing, and Hu Linga sat on a fast ship which sailed over from Relax Prefecture, bringing various herbs, cauldrons, and steamers. Qin Mu placed the matter of butcher chasing Shingan aside and immediately became busy again. He raised the cauldrons and worked hard to brew the medicinal concoctions, cooking and steaming all the patients. Mua, those with low cultivation can't be steamed, they will get cooked. Granny Sai immediately said. I understand. Qin Mu arranged everything properly and had the deer demons pay attention to the heat control while he went to the true dragon's nest. He took out 5 legs and asked Cripple, Grandpa Cripple, look at these legs, which 2 of them are yours? Cripple differentiated them and chose 2 legs. These 2. Mua, why do you have so many legs here? What are they for? Qin Mu smiled and said, for spares. If Grandpa Cripple's legs go missing again, the other 3 legs can be used for replacement. Pa. Children's words carry no harm. Go knock on wood, knock on wood. Cripple spat twice, and Qin Mu immediately attended to him. He boiled a cauldron of medicinal concoction and prepared his carefree sword, ointment, and dragon's saliva to reattach Cripple's legs. It was a walk in the park for him. After all, he had reattached Cripple and Butcher's body parts before, so attaching the 2 legs again was not difficult for him. It was even relaxing. Mua's craft is getting better and better. Cripple praised. On the side, Deaf raised his eyebrows and said, that's because you got sliced apart by others too many times and he had many chances to train. Cripple was furious, but Qin Mu was carrying him to soak in the medicinal concoction. Pa, old man's words carry no harm. Go knock on wood, knock on wood. While the 2 of them squabbled, Qin Mu carried a jade dragon bowl to find Blind. Grandpa Blind, which of these divine eyes are yours? There were over 10 eyeballs in the bowl, and every one of them was a divine eye collected by Shingan. If they weren't activated, he couldn't see which 2 of them had 9 heavens hidden inside of them. The eyeballs were all similar from the outside. Blind stretched his hand out to touch and picked out 2 eyeballs. He frowned and said, it's been a long time since my eyes have been dug out, and the wounds have already healed completely. Is there still hope to reattach my eyes? Qin Mu threw the other eyes back into the true dragon's nest with the jade dragon bowl before examining Blind's eyes in detail. He looked at them seriously. Blind's expression was calm as he smiled. It's okay if you can't reattach them. I'm already used to being like this. I can reattach them, but some of the nerves in the eyes have already withered. I need to nurse the eyes for a few days first, then I might just be able to use medicine to revive the activity of those nerves. Qin Mu raised his head and smiled. Grandpa Blind, don't worry, even though my medical expertise isn't as good as that of Grandpa Apothecary, I'm still number 2 in the world after all. He pondered over the matter for a moment, then prepared herbs to refine medicine for Blind. The structure of the nerves in the eyes was even more complicated than in the heart. On top of that, the degree of delicateness was equivalent to the brain, so Qin Mu had no choice but to be careful in carrying things out. He made sure that all the herbs were pure and there wouldn't be any side effects. He used all he knew to ensure that the medicinal energy would be gentle yet able to activate the nerves. It was one of the greatest tests for him. Qin Mu prepared numerous methods to increase the activity of the nerves in the eyes. Other than what could be consumed orally and applied externally, he even made a small machine which contained a medicinal concoction. It was able to automatically heat up the medicine into steam to nourish Blind's eye sockets. Other than that, medicinal concoction which was refined over and over again was injected into the half-dead muscles of Blind's eyes using a hollow silver needle. This could be said to be applying all the methods together. After several days of nursing, Blind felt his eye sockets burning, and there seemed to be many fine tentacles growing out in them. Only then did Qin Mu made his move to reconnect the nerves of the eyes for him. He used ribbons to wrap some crushed spirit pills around his head, covering his eyes. Grandpa Blind, after the muscles and nerves are completely healed, you can take off the ribbon, Qin Mu instructed, then summoned a tree demon over, reminding him to change medicine for Blind on time. That tree demon nodded repeatedly and just rooted himself in front of Blind to wait for the time to change medicine. Qin Mu let out a sigh of relief and checked on the dragon's nest. He thought to himself, if I put all of the body parts from Shingan together, I can also piece a body of a god. It's a pity I don't know what weird technique Shingan has cultivated. He had definitely kept some body part of his own, or his primordial spirit, otherwise, he wouldn't still be alive. Strange, which part of his body has he kept? When he was fighting with Shingan, he had changed his head, so his brain had naturally been changed as well. His divine blood, heart, and legs had all changed as well. What was even more terrifying was that he had different primordial spirits, and he could change them. When he was fighting with Yu Jiaoqing, he used his primordial spirits, using different ones to attack and injure her severely. Yet there had to be a part of his original body remaining, something which wasn't changed. All the other parts could be given up, but not that one. It was the gate to his vitality. Only by eradicating it could he be killed. All his body parts were replaced, but his soul definitely can't be replaced. Qin Mu's eyes lit up, and he found Granny Sai to talk about it, since her study on souls was much more profound than his. Soul is separated into souls and spirits. The souls are the heaven soul at the heart of the brows, the earth soul at the tailbone and the life soul at the navel. The 7 spirits are the canine corpse at the top of the head, the concealed sparrow at the ajna, the yin of sparrow at the laryngeal prominence, the seizing thief at the heart, the not toxic at the navel, the remove filth at the perineum, and the smelly lung at the lungs. According to logic, changing these parts would mean that his soul wouldn't be complete, yet he clearly had a complete soul. Qin Mu racked his brains. According to Granny Sai's deduction, Shingan's head, dantian, backbone, neck, lungs, heart, and intestines had to be preserved, or he would need his soul to live in the body he had seized. However, when Blind and the rest destroyed Shingan's heart, squashed his head, and even made his backbone slid out of his body, Shingan's soul didn't receive any heavy injuries and could still repair his body. This means that the head, dantian, backbone, neck, lungs, heart, and intestines of Shingan's original body are still around. His soul is still in his original body and would only live in the body he had seized when necessary. In that case, his original body parts should be hidden in. He and Granny Sai looked each other in the eyes and blinked. Shingan's chest? The original body should be hidden in the chest. Butcher had split it open, but the original body might have escaped the damage. He still has a weakness. Qin Mu composed himself. Even if Grandpa Butcher can't kill him, as long as he still carries a chest the next time he appears, it will confirm my guess. Granny Sai nodded. As long as he shows up with the chest, it means his original body is hidden inside and he isn't invincible. Killing him then will be much easier. In the manor, cauldrons were raised and each one had a deer demon guarding it and adding wood to the fire continuously. Within them, experts were being cooked and a medicinal smell wafted out. Besides the cauldrons, there were also huge steamers in which experts were put to be steamed. Qin Mu patrolled around them and checked on the medicinal concoctions, changing the herbs a few times and applying needles to the experts whose divine treasures had been damaged. The hollow silver needles directed steam into their bodies. Emperor Yanfeng's body was covered in silver needles while he looked at Qin Mu with a black face. He was pressed down into the steamer by the youth, but then sat upright again to continue glaring. Qin Mu smiled and said, "Does your Majesty have anything to say?" Emperor Yanfeng's expression suddenly changed, and he said with a pleasant face, "Minister Qin has worked hard and his merits are high. Do you want a promotion?" Qin Mu was puzzled as Emperor Yanfeng's expression became even more pleasant. "You are still on the 5th rank now, but you have contributed so much, improved our flying ships, crafted true origin cannon, and sunshot divine cannon, followed the Crown Prince to open irrigation works and transportation, and even saved me numerous times from danger. This time, you even brought Heavenly Feather clansmen over. Your contributions are just too great, to the point I don't even know how to reward you. Tell me, what do you want?" Qin Mu scratched his head, racking his brain. "Your Majesty, the amount of money required for all the herbs which are needed to heal everyone is quite high. I also spent quite a sum to buy cauldrons, steamers, and silver needles. All that money was paid in advance by me, so can your Majesty." Emperor Yanfeng's face instantly turned black. "This is not considered a reward, Ministry of Finance has the money for it." The reward I want to give you is something Ministry of Finance can't give. What do you want? Qin Mu thought about it for a moment. Money? He never lacked money. Official position? He didn't really have an interest in that. Fame? Heavenly Devil Cult Master was known throughout the land, so what fame did he need? Treasure? He had seized many treasures and even plundered dragon-rearing sovereigns' pouches. Hulinger even got him 100 treasures from Roland's golden palace. He also had Carefree Sword and his sword pellet, so he didn't lack treasures as well. Precious herbs and materials, spirit pills, or miraculous medicines. He didn't need that as well because he was a divine physician himself. Qin Mu shook his head and finally understood how Imperial Preceptor felt. The things that the Emperor could reward him with didn't catch his eyes, so he didn't want any reward. Think again. Emperor Yangfeng slowly guided him. There's definitely something you want that I possess. It doesn't have to be an item or an official position, but can also be a person. Qin Mu came to realization and smiled with understanding. So your Majesty is thinking of granting me some palace maids. I wander around most of the year, so I don't need any palace maids to serve me. However, Granny stays here and there are just demons and monsters who are all ugly around here. If your Majesty can grant me some palace maids to tidy up the manor, I will definitely not reject. 2 girls like Jian Qi and Qin Qi beside Empress Dowager would be just fine. They aren't bad-looking and are also gentle and understanding. Emperor Yangfeng was furious and lay down in the steamer. Scram! As you command. Qin Mu closed the steamer while muttering under his breath, acting all generous, saying he wants to reward me, and then he can't even bear to spare some palace maids. What miser? What did you say? Say it once more. Emperor Yangfeng, who was in the steamer, was furious. Off with your head. Emperor Yangfeng then heard Qin Mu complaining outside. You Xiu, you came at the right time. Your father said he wanted to reward me, then he didn't want to reward me, and now he even wants my head. Why are you paying attention to him? He has been quite agitated these few years, wanting to off with this head and that head all the time. It's all from the stress of politics. In the end, even though he had said to off many heads, he actually didn't really kill many people. Ignore him, and he will calm down after creating a ruckus. Did you find me for dual cultivation? That's right. Our technique is almost complete, but delayed it to come and treat everyone's injuries. We need to hurry and beat the metal while it's hot. Otherwise, once father's injuries are healed and he decides to bring me back to the capital, I don't know when the technique will be completed. The 2 of them walked away and Emperor Yangfeng, who was in the steamer, was disappointed as he thought to himself. Xiu, father can only help you this much. That brat is too dense, so you can only rely on yourself. After a couple of days working on it, Qin Mu and Ling Yuxiu finished tidying up the complete technique of 6 directions primordial spirit. They were slightly anxious as they didn't know if that technique would really allow others to cultivate their primordial spirit on 6 directions realm. Let me try. I'm on 6 directions realm. Cai Yunxiang said excitedly. Qin Mu shook his head. This technique is actually 2 techniques used as a set. It's separated into male and female, which have some slight differences. Because of that, 2 people must cultivate it together and they can't be on guard against each other. They also can't have crooked thoughts, or they won't be able to cultivate their primordial spirits. But once it succeeds, both of them will succeed together. Cult Master, train with me, Cai Yunxiang said in a hurry. Qin Mu's voice became more serious. Saintess, we need to be so intimate that nothing can come between us. We need to share mutual trust and have no crooked thoughts. Cai Yunxiang giggled and said, You're the cult master, how can I harbor any crooked thoughts about you? Qin Mu rolled his eyes. No crooked thoughts? That little woman saw Granny Sai as an example, always thinking of how to replace the cult master without learning any of Granny Sai's good points. However, Cai Yunxiang still had a side that was similar to that of Granny Sai, and that was whenever they met danger, she was always the first one to jump in and save people without hesitation. This showed that her nature wasn't bad, she just lacked a good upbringing. If she'd had such an excellent upbringing as I did, she wouldn't have ended up walking a crooked path. Qin Mu sighed ruefully. Cai Yunxiang might have crooked thoughts, but he needed to confirm the technique that he and the princess had created worked. He nodded and said, I can't do anything if you have crooked thoughts. I will believe you once, but only once. If it doesn't work, you can find another person you can trust. Cai Yunxiang rushed excitedly to Ling Yuxiu and asked for the technique for women. Ling Yuxiu taught her without holding back. Yang Jingjing also came over, and Ling Yuxiu smiled. Sister Jing, do you want to cultivate your primordial spirit with the one who herds cows? Yang Jingjing shook her head. I had cultivated my primordial spirit long ago. You too can cultivate, I will just look. Primordial spirit dual cultivation is very comfortable. Ling Yuxiu said seriously. Yang Jingjing's heart was moved, but she was also slightly embarrassed. Cai Yunxiang then asked curiously, Jingjing, what's your cultivation now? How did you cultivate primordial spirit this early? It should be divine bridge realm, Yang Jingjing said in a soft voice with some embarrassment. I did not cultivate it, however, it's from Sunship. I'm a body of pure yang, and because I had control of Sunship and borrowed its energy for many years, I used it to open all my divine treasures. When I parted from Sunship before, my divine treasures would close back, but after using it many times, the divine treasures no longer closed. Cai Yunxiang and Ling Yuxiu were stunned. Qin Mu also stared with eyes wide open, hardly able to believe it. Yang Jingjing's age was similar to theirs, but she was already an expert of the cult master level. They still couldn't see it earlier that Yang Jingjing was then the strongest among them. Qin Mu had also once driven Sunship and Moonship, but his divine treasures would close and seal up after he separated from the ships. Never would he have thought that after driving one numerous times, the divine treasures would remain open. In this case, does it mean that we can use Sunship to create a bunch of existences of the cult master level with Sunship? Cai Yunxiang suddenly suggested. Ling Yuxiu shook her head. Impossible. One needs to be the body of pure yang to become the Sun Guardian. Sun-haired tribe can't even find a second body of pure yang, so what is there to talk about other places? Cult Master can. Cai Yunxiang immediately looked at Qin Mu. Cult Master can control Sunship and can most likely borrow the power of Sunship to open all his divine treasures in one go. Qin Mu's heart was pretty moved, but Yang Jingjing immediately said, by borrowing Sunship to open divine treasures, it's easy for the realms to become unstable. Grandpa said this was an opportune shortcut, but it's not as solid as cultivating step by step. My trip this time is also to take a look at how you guys cultivate and see if there's any remedy. Qin Mu could only give up on that idea. Cultivating step by step indeed contained more fun and surprises. If he hadn't done that, he would have never discovered the god transformations of 5 elements realm or 6 directions primordial spirit. Yang Jingjing, who had opened up all her divine treasures with Sunship, might still have to cultivate from the beginning again, comprehending the meaning of every realm in detail to comprehend the marvel within them. Yet when the height one stood at was too high, it was hard to clearly see the bottom. Cai Yunxiang comprehended the female version of the technique, then asked Ling Yuxiu for guidance to make sure there were no problems with her cultivation of it. Only then did she start to cultivate her primordial spirit with Qin Mu. Far away, Blind said to Emperor Yangfeng with his eyes blindfolded, Emperor, your daughter is pretty generous, giving your son-in-law away for Lassie Xiong to enjoy. Emperor Yangfeng snorted coldly. Xiao clearly doesn't understand the meaning of primordial spirit dual cultivation, she has no concept of that. If she knew primordial spirit dual cultivation could only be done between husband and wife, she wouldn't be that generous. You are going to tell her? Blind asked with interest. There's no need. Emperor Yangfeng shook his head. Only one couple can do primordial spirit dual cultivation. After their primordial spirits resonate with each other, there can't be a third person's primordial spirit resonating together. Minister Qin has already resonated with Xiao's primordial spirit, so even if Saint Xiong cultivates with him, they won't be able to achieve resonation of primordial spirits and she won't be able to cultivate her primordial spirit. They are all just kids, so they don't know the real stuff. He sighed. Since ancient times, the Emperor's chamber of imperial concubines has had 3,000 beauties, but no one knows that the Emperor also has imperial troubles. Only the Empress can resonate her primordial spirit with the Emperor, so even if the Emperor goes to love his other concubines, they can't resonate together and it's hard to ascend to extreme happiness. This is why there are not many people in the royal family. Blind smiled. When together with the other concubines, the pleasure isn't as great, so the younger generation of the royal family is lacking in numbers. Emperor Yangfeng nodded. That's why I'm not worried about Xiao at all. She has already taken the opportunity, so even if Minister Qin has other women, he will still return to her side. That is because he cannot resonate with other woe. My primordial spirit was cultivated. Cai Yinxiang's cheers suddenly rang out, and Emperor Yanfeng's eyes went blank as he listened to Cai Yinxiang frolicking around in joy. Ling Yuxiu was also overjoyed and celebrating with her, and so was Qin Mu. Emperor Yangfeng didn't come back to his senses even after a long while. You forgot that Mua is the overlord body. Primordial spirit of ordinary spirit body cannot resonate with others once they have a partner, but an overlord body can. Blind propped himself on his cane and said calmly, Emperor, I admire your expression very much, but I'm not a painter, otherwise, I would draw it and admire it whenever I'm free. I have painted it, Deaf said from nearby. The two old men chuckled, sounding very pleased with himself. Cult Master, Princess Xiao, what's the name of this technique that you two have founded? Cai Yinxiang asked. This kind of primordial spirit dual cultivation technique, let's call it Primordial Spirit Guide, Qin Mu and Ling Yuxiu said in unison. Primordial Spirit Guide was devised by Qin Mu and Ling Yuxiu by combining the theory of the most basic technique of Overlord Body 3 Elixir Body. Its basis rested in Daoyin technique who was used to guide the vital qi. Meanwhile, Primordial Spirit Guide guided one spirit embryo to mix with another person's soul before flying out of their bodies. The soul and spirit would then swap back, taking the chance to merge into Primordial Spirit. Therefore, the technique needed to have a guide word in its name. The reason why Qin Mu's Primordial Spirit could resonate with Cai Yinxiang's Primordial Spirit was because of his spirit embryo. It had no attributes, which was unlike the spirit bodies of Cai Yinxiang and Ling Yuxiu who had their own attributes. The resonance between spirit embryos came from primordial spirits fusing and producing a fixed frequency. Because everyone's attributes were different, there would be greater or lesser differences in everyone's primordial spirits, and the frequency would be different. A couple dual cultivating their primordial spirits would resonate together and coordinate to be on the same frequency, forming a unique one for themselves. When they dual cultivated with other people's primordial spirits, they wouldn't be able to achieve resonation of the primordial spirits because they wouldn't be on the same frequency. Qin Mu's primordial spirit and spirit embryo coincidentally had no attributes of any spirit body, so it was like a white sheet of paper. When it dual cultivated with Ling Yuxiu, the frequency was Ling Yuxiu's frequency, and when he dual cultivated with Cai Yinxiang, it was Cai Yinxiang's frequency. Emperor Yangfeng had never experienced how weird Qin Mu's overlord body was, so he hadn't paid any mind to it, and thus didn't tell Ling Yuxiu about the taboo of the resonation of primordial spirits. Now he was full of regrets. Qin Mu and Ling Yuxiu finished up the male and female techniques of Primordial Spirit Guide, writing down the cultivation method and the method of replacing souls in detail. They were both very happy. Suddenly, they came to an indescribable comprehension. It not only concerned the Tao, but also their Tao heart. By experiencing the process of founding the technique together, their Tao heart took a leap, a one-time qualitative leap. It could be said to be sudden, but it actually wasn't sudden at all. Creation was the hardest. They had created a technique out of nothing and changed the cultivation system of 6 directions realm and after, pulling primordial spirit to 6 directions realm. This change far surpassed the 3 basic sword forms that Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor had founded. It could even be said that if Qin Mu and Ling Yuxiu could develop the marvel of 6 directions primordial spirit to the extreme, it was possible that this change could make people arrive at Celestial Being Realm much earlier, fusing it with 7 Stars Realm and changing the 2 realms into one. Furthermore, this change would affect all the divine arts practitioners of the future generations. Spirit Embryo Realm and 5 Elements Realm were the realms of martial arts practitioners, the people who had yet to step into the door of divine arts. People on Six Directions realm could be called divine arts practitioners and be considered to have officially stepped through the door of divine arts. After Six Directions realm, there were 7 stars, celestial being, life and death, divine bridge. All of them were realms that divine arts practitioners had to stride forward step by step to the realm of gods in the legends. The 4 realms were 4 steps, but each one was much harder than the previous, so taking each step took an extremely long time. What Qin Mu and Ling Yuxiu had founded could possibly change 4 steps into 3 steps, allowing divine arts practitioners to reach the god realm in an even shorter time. This was a huge achievement and a great virtue to take part in creating such a technique. The world had no roads, so where many people walked, there would show up a road. The change in the cultivation system could cause the paths, skills, and divine arts to change. The great Tao of heaven and earth would also change according to it. The huge change Primordial Spirit Guide would bring was something the 2 youths did not expect. Founding a technique was difficult, so they had to comprehend a lot of matters. Their Tao heart topped those of great masters and both of them sunk into their own comprehensions. The moment Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor founded the 3 basic sword forms was also the moment he became a great master. His frame of mind had also risen from technique to the realm of skill. What Qin Mu and Ling Yuxiu were experiencing was the same kind of change. They could be considered to have completed Primordial Spirit Guide, but how to strengthen their primordial spirits on Six Directions realm was still a blank area to be explored. Strengthening their primordial spirit by cultivating was actually a matter of 7 stars realm. No technique on Six Directions realm had a method to strengthen the primordial spirit, which meant that as the founders, they could be a step ahead of others in comprehending cultivation techniques of Six Directions realm, creating even more things. Emperor. Blind suddenly kicked Emperor Yanfan's thigh, not looking like he was joking. He said with a solemn face, "Do you feel a change in the heaven and earth?" This video will end here.